Hey folks, this is Rebel Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the tornado turned panic out. And Psychic Tom has it with his crystal ball ready to go.
Alright. So, we got lots to talk about, lots to catch up on, and we're going to start with the big event from a couple weeks ago. Alright, let's just start with just past week's UFC event, Whitaker versus Alaskarov. Everybody was on Whitaker, and pretty much for good reason. Whitaker was preparing for the only guy to ever beat Ikram Alaskarov before Whitaker. And there's a little bit of backstory to this one because these two cards, the one this week and the one last week, were all rearranged. And this one, Alaskarov was supposed to fight the week before, got bumped to this card in Saudi Arabia. And talk about an odyssey. He ended up having to take the fight on short notice, cut a bunch of weight, fly to Saudi Arabia from Vegas. I mean, the odds were stacked against him. And he only had a little bit of time to prepare for his opponent, whereas Whitaker was preparing for the guy who beat him. So pretty much everybody was on Whitaker, but definitely did not expect it to be that quick. 1 minute and 49 seconds into the fight, Whitaker took care
But
of
at
business.
least he made weight.
Yes.
Now you know where I'm going with
Yes.
this one.
Well, another
you know
guy
where I'm going with this.
on the card had to apologize for the umpteenth time he missed weight. We'd lost count at so many times he missed this weight, and he had to actually apologize to Dana White. And I find that, I mean, I know it's in Saudi Arabia this time, but I find that pretty ridiculous since the advent of the UFC Performance Institute, where you can come in anytime you want and train there. They can set a diet plan for you. They can analyze your body fat and all kinds of other things. So, I mean, there's just no excuse for Kelvin Gastelum to keep missing weight. And if it's a problem, bump up.
He didn't even try.
Also, Dana White was literally holding hands with the Sheikh of Saudi Arabia, and they did a video. And come to find out now that they're good buddies. They're going to have another event in Saudi Arabia, and Dana White even uh, finagled a possible slap fighting event over there for next year. But it was funny because the Sheikh actually wants to make a movie now with Dana White, which is weird to me. I just would have never saw that coming, but they were literally holding hands in the video. Dana seemed to not like it too much. He kind of let go as soon as he could. But yeah, they were holding hands and walking towards the camera at one point when they were announcing that they were going to work together on some things. And one of them is quite odd. The UFC 306 event is happening at the Sphere in Las Vegas. And Dana White has been complaining about the millions of dollars he spent on. I think he said he spent $13 million so far, the last check. So what does the Crown Prince, Sheikh, whatever you want to call him, do? He partners on that with Dana White. So now it's going to be called Riyadh Season Noche UFC because of the Mexican Independence Day and Saudi Arabia now basically sponsoring it. So, I mean, who could fault Dana White for trying to get some of that Saudi money after the PFL deal came in? But yeah, it's interesting. There was another article by some of my old friends. I think Zach Arnold was part of it. He's now at a new website, but they have a whole article about something they predicted a while ago, and it's government welfare. Basically, is what they're calling it. Corporate welfare from the government. Where the UFC is, instead of trying to get corporate sponsors, they're having governments, local and national governments, pay them money to promote fight cards in their areas. And it's a ridiculous amount of money. And, every time Dana White gets asked about fighter pay, he criticizes the journalists for bringing it up. and saying that they've never built anything in their lives, so they don't know what they're talking about. But, the more you focus on the amount of money they're pulling in to put these events on, the more you wonder why guys are still getting paid shit. And, he even said at one point in one of the interviews I've seen recently, nobody really knows how much these guys make. The fighters themselves don't want you to know how much they make. I think that's complete bullshit. We had a whole lawsuit about how much they make that just settled, which is another story, because that is now set for a hearing because the judge has decided he wants to hear more about it. He doesn't think the fighters are getting paid enough, which is crazy because we had obviously um, the wife of Tommy Morrison on the show a few times, Patricia Morrison, and she had the same judge in her case that ended up failing. Talk about should get more money. Like, when are you on the side of the fighters? So I don't know what that's all about, if it will actually still go through or not. But I think there's a hearing on July 12th on that. But anyway, getting back to the PF or the Saudi Arabia card, we had quite the interesting co-main event. There's multiple storylines here. I didn't do too well on my bets because I mostly had Pavlovich winning, and that was possibly due to Brett Okamoto. He does a podcast every week where he does the picks, and he actually said that Volkov and Pavlovich had been training partners. We knew about that, but he also said that Volkov had never won a round in training. So that was confusing to me after watching this fight because, did he completely invent his style? Was he going easy? Like, what the hell is that all about? But they had the questioning of each other at the weigh-in about who took the fight first, and they were supposed to never fight each other according to their gentleman's agreement. But apparently the UFC tricked him into making it happen, and Volkov just basically put a masterclass on of fighting tall. He used his reach, used his technique. Actually, I was surprised he didn't throw a lot of kicks because I thought, that was going to be his secret weapon. But he mostly just used his punching range and his power to just keep Pavlovich swinging wildly to try to catch up. It ended up being a unanimous decision for Volkov. Pavlovich did not take it well. Volkov came over and, said something to him, and then Pavlovich turned around and pushed him, which they didn't actually show at the event on the live feed, but I got to see it a little bit later. And then the other controversy was Alexander Volkov actually hired a stylist to be in his corner, which I believe is a first. And the dude was combing his hair between rounds. The other funny story about the fight card is DC Daniel Cormier was talking about fighters holding the cage, and he was whispering, and so Michael Bisping was giving him shit for being a snitch. But he was like, "Oh, I didn't want the referee to hear. He's right there. That's why I was whispering." And then the referee started laughing. So that was another funny part of the broadcast. But then we had the ninth fight of the night, Kelvin Gastelum getting a unanimous decision win over Daniel Rodriguez. That was part of a couple of my small winning parlays. And I had two parlays. One had him over 2.5 rounds. Everybody pretty much knew this was going to decision, although there was differing people. People differed over whether Gastelum or Rodriguez was going to win it. So my other parlay had Gastelum just on the money line. Then Whitaker on the money line, and over 1.5 was the big one for Volkov and Pavlovich. I think I would have predicted that on the show if we had a show last week. Just because of the sparring partner situation, they know each other enough. I thought it was definitely going to go over 1.5. I didn't think it was going to go all three, but over 1.5 was a good line, and it was positive odds. I should have bet that across the board, but I had too much faith in Pavlovich. The other thing that swayed me was they showed a picture of Pavlovich all jacked up, like he had just improved his physique 500%, and it did not look like that when he was in the cage. He was pretty average, just like he always does. So I don't know who doctored that picture that showed and what they did that for. But anyway, we had before Gastelum, we had Sharabutin Magomedov winning pretty handily over Antonio Tricoli, who also was a short notice replacement. That one ended by TKO and punches. Third round, 2 minutes and 27 seconds in. And then the big surprise of the night, Johnny Walker going down in the very first round to Volkan Ozdemir. All the experts had Walker going into this. I actually signed up for a little AI assistance. There is a program they call MMA Bet 365 or something like that. Let me see if I can find it here. Got the email. Yeah, MMA Play 365. Okay. And they call themselves MMA Play, but it seems like they're only predicting UFC cards for some reason. So I kind of gave them shit on that this week. And also, their algorithm or whatever they use seems to be too weighted on round one finishes. If a guy's supposed to win by KO, it always just basically goes to round one. It's going to happen, you know. So they were heavy on round one, Johnny Walker. So not only that, but all the experts were Sam Walker. So I did not have a single Ozdemir lineup. So that was where all my parlays started to fall apart. Was that fight?
Rich, someone made remember Johnny. No one had high hopes for him.
Yeah.
Because he was tall. Jones was still in the light heavyweight division, and it was talked about him being a serious contender. And then he won that fight and did that insane back flip.
Yep.
And I can't remember, but it's almost like fight gods were so angry with him.
Yeah.
When he was training in Brazil.
Well, this time, the dumbest thing he did was after he got punched in the nose a couple times, he kept touching his nose like he was going to pop it back into place or something. Well, like he was just telegraphing the fact that it was hurting him. And he stopped focusing on firing back. He's just worried about his damn nose. And of course, he got knocked out 2 minutes and 28 seconds into the fight. So I don't know if that's so much Ozdemir doing what he does and being superior, or Johnny Walker just being stupid in that fight. But I guess it was a combination of both. And then we had the robbery of the night before that. Nasrat Haqparast, I don't think, won that fight against Jared Gordon, but he's got the Arab name, so a lot of people were screaming hometown cooking on that one.
Yeah, I agree.
But that was an entertaining fight. It was definitely could have been a split decision for Gordon, but I don't think it should have gone to Haqparast at all. Felipe Lima was probably the story of the night. Talk about DC. Daniel Cormier actually mentioned something about him going to see his mother, and it would be nice if we could go see her after a victory. And then, bam, it happens like 30 seconds later. Lima was losing pretty much across the board, and he slipped a rear naked choke on Muhammadjan Naimov and ended the fight at 1:15 of the third round. So it was desperation time, and he pulled off the desperation win. And before that, Rinat Fakhretdinov made it a tough match against Nicholas Dalby, who was literally huffing and puffing, supposedly on purpose. It's a breathing technique he has, I guess. But he was mostly doing well in his wrestling, where Fakhretdinov was landing a lot more of the good strikes. And Dalby hung in there. He got a split decision loss as well. That's I don't think should have been split. I think that should have been Fakhretdinov across the board. But again, we had one judge not having a clue. And then Muin Gafurov at bantamweight, beating Kyung Ho Kang by decision. That was a little bit back and forth in the beginning, but then Gafurov took over. And then Magomed Gadzhiyazlov won against Brenson Ribeiro by majority decision. And Chang Ho Lee won the first fight of the night by split decision. So my winning parlays were Gadzhiyazlov money line, Magomed money line, over 2.5 for Gastelum Rodriguez, and Whitaker money line, and over 1.5 for Volkov Pavlovich. That was a plus 695 parlay. $5 turned into $39.79. And then the three-legged one, Gastelum money line, Whitaker money line, and the over 1.5 for Volkov Pavlovich. I put $7.71 on that one, and that paid $43.40. I also won a PFL uh, PFL parlay from last week. That was another one. That happened on Thursday, which is a very weird day. You don't usually see fights on that day, but let me get to that one real quick. Brent Primus was the first leg of that money line, and he had a little bit of a tough fight, but edged it out with the gas tank over Solomon Renfro. That was a rear naked choke win in the third round. So it was kind of in the middle of the card there, the sixth fight of the night. Third round, 3 minutes and 21 seconds in. Before that, Sabadu Sai winning over Andrew Sanchez by TKO. Ghazi Rabadanov beating Elvin Espinoza by decision. Before that, Adam Piccolotti picked up a win over Michael Dufort. That was a little bit of a tough fight. Dufort kind of gassed out towards the end, and Piccolotti just kept wrestling, getting the better of him there. Sergio Casio beating Anthony Romero by decision, and Brian Zurcher over Julian Ruiz in the first fight of the night was a second-round knockout for Zurcher. Alex Polizzi over Antonio Carlos Jr. at light heavyweight, unanimous decision. Dovletsan Yagashimuradov over Simon Bayong by unanimous decision. In the eighth fight of the night, Rob Wilkinson had a tough fight with Joshua Silveira. That was a split decision win for Rob. Bruno Miranda at lightweight took care of Patricky Freire, but it was a split decision win. Freire looked like very good in the first couple rounds. It's kind of tailed off after that. Looked like he could have got a knockout. Impa Kasangane predictably getting a TKO over Jacob Nadeau. Second round doctor stoppage. And then Clay Collard had a very disappointing fight against Mads Burnell. I thought he did enough to win, but I guess the judges gave more weight to the takedowns than they did to the striking. And Collard just didn't. Yeah, Collard just didn't seem to have enough power, number one, and Burnell just held him so long on the ground when he did get his takedowns that it's understandable, but just I thought Clay could have edged it with the striking. So he's got to work on two things: striking with a little bit more power, planting his feet a little bit better, and just takedown defense. Probably the takedown defense is more important because no matter what, if you don't have the power, you can still win by decision with striking like that. I mean, he was out punching him like 100 punches to something in the first round. So that was pretty disappointing. So that was that. Let's see. And last week we also had some Bellator stuff in Dublin where Conor McGregor made an appearance. And like he was wearing sandals and pajamas. He showed up and gave a speech after the fight about missing the fight this weekend with Michael Chandler. And it came out that his injury was actually a broken pinky toe. Kind of ridiculous when you think about it. But it is what it is. Anyway, Ramazan Kurmagomedov actually beat the ass-kicking machine, Jason Jackson, in the main event of that card. And Nurmagomedov was undefeated going in. He's still undefeated. Um, Corner probably told him at one point he's not a machine. It was like the reverse Rocky 4 situation. Russian wins versus the American. Paul Hughes in the co-main event, beating Bobby King by TKO from the punches and elbows. 4 minutes and 50 seconds into round 2. We had Arlene Blencow at featherweight beating Sinead Kavanaugh. That was really who McGregor was there to see. He was disappointed, but gave her a lot of credit for hanging in there. It's a guillotine choke submission, 3 minutes and 2 seconds into round 2. And then Dalton Rosta over Norbert Novieni Jr. came in way too cocky. Rosta just did a little bit better wrestling in the first couple rounds, and then Novieni just could not finish him in the third. Tried, came close, but ended up losing by majority decision. And Darag Kelly over Matthias Poron by guillotine choke in the first round, 1 minute and 29 seconds in. Kasumov over Mateus Matos by unanimous decision. Nathan Kelly over Jose Sanchez by ninja choke in the first round, 3 minutes and 42 seconds in. Kasan Magomed Sharipov, that's a tough one, over Tyler Matheson by unanimous decision. Sarvarjan Khamidov over Marsarli Alves by unanimous decision. And we had a north-south choke in the first round by Shinobu Ota. Michelle Montague beating Carolina Sobek by rear naked choke, also in the first round. 3 first-round submissions to start the card. Nate Kelly was the first guy to get his submission over Paul Nolan. That was an armbar, 1 minute and 49 seconds into first. So that's good stuff. All right. And we have a fight this weekend, UFC 303. We're going to get to that a little bit later. We also have PFL 6, another regular season offering. And I'm going to do the analysis and the picks and all that in a minute, but I'm sure Tony's itching to get to boxing. So let's go back a little ways in the boxing. Really? Jeez.
When you figure the last few weekends, I thought let's kill Tony in June schedule.
Yep.
So I remember one weekend there was going to be fights on. I was going to tell my dad how to turn them on, and then I was like, oh, I should be home in time.
Well, the big fight card last week really wasn't all that big. It was overseas across the pond, and Tyler Denny came in at 18-2-3, won a technical decision, unanimous, after 5 rounds, and beat Felix Cash, gave him his first loss. Cash came in 16-0, undefeated at middleweight, and the EBU European middleweight title goes to Tyler Denny. Shannon Ryan lost a split decision to Emma Dolan in a Somebody's Always Got to Go fight, and Dolan picked up the BBFC British Super Flyweight title and the Commonwealth Boxing Council Super Flyweight title. And then it went the distance with another big fight on that card. Lewis Crocker getting the unanimous decision win number 20. He improves to 20-0, and then Kona Walker falls to 13-3-1 at welterweight after all 10 rounds. Really not much else happened last week. But the weekend before that was pretty big. The 15th, we had a fantastic card. I actually watched a lot of that one. Watched Gervonta Davis take out Frank Martin. I actually was surprised that he knocked him out. I thought it would at least go the distance, but boy, he just came in on him in the 8th round and overwhelmed him with punches. Another big surprise in the Somebody's Always Got to Go fight. That was one too. Gervonta Davis came in 29-0 for his 30th win. Martin came in at 18-0. But another somebody that got to go fight was Gary Antoine Russell, falling to 17-1. And Albert Boileau getting his 23rd win, split decision win for the WBC interim world super lightweight title. That was in Vegas. Good stuff. And David Benavidez took Alexander Gvozdyk the distance and gave him his second loss. Also, Canelo Alvarez was talking about making that fight now with Benavidez. Though there's going to have to be for a shit ton of money. He said he's willing to do it. So that's interesting. So Benavidez gets win number 29, Davis win number 30. Then we had Carlos Adams. I don't want to say it, but came in at 23-1, goes to 24-1, beat Terrell Gosha, and falls to 24-4 with one draw, and gets the WBC World Middleweight title. And then we had Mark Magsayo proving to 26-2 with a unanimous decision over Eduardo Ramirez. He improves to 29, or actually, yeah, he goes to 28-4 with 3 draws. That one was for the WBA Intercontinental Super Featherweight title. And Elijah Garcia lost his undefeated record, moves to 16-1. Kyron Davis was better on the night, winning a split decision to improve to 19-3-1 at middleweight. That was pretty much the biggest card of that weekend. So now we go to the coming fights, where there's really not too much going on this weekend, but a few fights worth mentioning. So, tomorrow night, we have the WBC International Featherweight title on the line between Luca Rigoldi, 31-2-2, and David Tassi, who's 15-0. And that actually is in Italy, so pretty good stuff. 2 Italian fighters fighting each other in Italy for a title.
Cool.
How about that? And then in Belfast, we have Connor Quinn, 9-0-1, fighting Connor Kelsall, who is 11-0. So that's somebody who's got to go. Commonwealth Boxing Council flyweight title on the line there. And then Pierce O'Leary, 14-0, fighting Durag Foley, who is 22-5-1. That one is for the WBC International Super Lightweight title. And we go to Washington, D.C., Lamont Roach, 24-1-1, fighting Fioral McCrory, 16-0 for the WBA World Super Featherweight title. This is also tomorrow night. Lester Martinez in the co-main event. He's 17-0, fighting Carlos Gongora, who's 22-2 for the super middleweight. Well, in the super middleweight division, I should say, no title. And then we have a female fight. Rihanna Rios, 7-0, fighting Mary Romero, 10-5 at bantamweight. Also on Friday, Lorenzo Simpson from Atlanta here, 14-1, fighting Raiko Santana, 10-4 at super middleweight. Not sure why that's such a big deal. Okay, IBO World Cruiserweight title on the line in the Congo. Yves Nagabu, 22-2, fighting Kevin Martinez, 13-0 cruiserweight. Then we get into Saturday. Somebody's always got to go for the IBF Youth Featherweight title. Christ Asabe. It might not be our Jesus fight of the week, but it's our Christ fight of the week. Christ Asabe, 14-0. Yeah, right. Fighting Alessandro Maiora, who is 14-0. Both 14-0. Well, at least Christ isn't an underdog. Okay, EBU European Super Featherweight title on the line between Yanfe Gomez, 13-0-1, and Khalil El Hadri, 18-2. And let's see. Yeah, no really big, huge names that I see here. Here's a new one. I don't even know what these initials stand for, but this is in Switzerland. Johan Kongolo, 15-1-1, fighting Edgard Moskvichev, who is 18-1-2 for the WBC CISBB super middleweight title. So I guess that's Swedish Board of Boxing. The SBB part? I don't know what the CI is. Okay. And then on the zone from Liverpool, England, we have Jack Rafferty, 22-0, fighting Sabari Jaishankar, 11-2 to 22-0. That's kind of mismatch of the week territory. Two titles on the line from Coventry, England. Danny Quatermain, 11-0, fighting James Chireji, 20-4 for the IBF Super Featherweight, IBF European Super Featherweight, and WBO European Super Featherweight titles. And there's somebody who's got to go. Niall Berry, 10-0, fighting Francesco De Rosa, 8-0 for the IBF European Super Bantamweight title. Lots of stuff over in the UK this weekend. And then Phoenix, Arizona, there's the zone card. This is where all the big names are. Well, this and the one ESPN Plus card. Juan Francisco Estrada coming in at 44-3. It's a lot of fights for this day and age. Fighting Jesse Rodriguez, who holds the title, the WBC World Super Flyweight title. He's looking for win number 20, 19-0. So the WBC title on the line there. And it's experience versus youth usually when you see their kind of records coming in. Estrada has not lost recently. All 6 of his last 6 fights were wins. So he's got a good chance. We'll see. Arturo Papoca, 13-0 with 1 draw, fighting Danny Barrios Flores, who is 15-0. So that's technically somebody who's always got to go fight for the WBC Continental Americas Super Bantamweight title. And then champion Yamaleth Mercado, 23-3, fighting Ramla Ali, 9-1 at Super Bantamweight for the WBC World Super Bantamweight title. And of course, the big one, Teofimo Lopez back in action on ESPN Plus, number 4 in the world at super lightweight, fighting Steve Claggett. Lopez 20-1, does have the 1 loss in his last 6. Steve Claggett coming in at 38-7-2, but has won all of his last 6. So the WBO World Super Lightweight title. And thought Lopez had said a little while back he was going to retire, but obviously changed his mind. We'll see how he does coming into this one. Tony Luis, a former guest of ours, was on Facebook last couple of days talking about Claggett being the last person he faced in the ring before he retired. And he's pulling for Steve. Claggett is no slouch, no cheap date, as Tom would say, so I would say he has a puncher's chance, but I think the bookies got Teofimo Lopez winning this one. I'd be surprised if Claggett pulled it off, but he is certainly capable, so it should be a good fight. And then we got a couple guys with 2 losses. Featherweights. Robeisy Ramirez coming in at 13-2, but he's number 5 at featherweight. And Brandon Leon Benitez has almost twice as many wins, but he's ranked number 34. He's 21-2 at featherweight, so probably less quality opposition than Robeisy. And we got our Elvis fight of the week. Elvis Rodriguez versus Gino Rodrigo. 15-1-1 for Elvis. 12-3-2 for Rodrigo. That's super lightweight. And then Yan Santana, 11-0, fighting Brandon Valdez, 15-4 featherweight. And Rohan Polanco, 12-0, fighting Luis Hernandez Ramos, 23-4 at welterweight. And we got one on Sunday in Phoenix as well for the IBO World Featherweight title. 16-2 Hector Andres Sosa and 25-3-1 Keenan Carbajal. Big featherweight belt there. All right. We have a little bit of news. Arman Sarukian has been punished and fined for punching a fan. I don't know how I never heard about this until now, but apparently back in April, he was walking out for a fight and somebody gave him the finger. Sound familiar, Tony? Yeah, he's currently ranked number 1 in the UFC lightweight rankings, but he probably won't be fighting for at least 6 months. I think he was punished for 9 months. He was suspended, but they say if he does public service announcements about violence, they will give him 6 months instead of 9. But it's kind of funny because I haven't seen a clip of it. I don't know when it happened. I don't know if there is video of it, but one article says he shook his fist at him. Another one said he punched the fan. But anyway, he didn't get charged. Didn't get charged criminally, but he will be suspended. But he's
Some bullshit.
yeah, he's likely to have a title match with lightweight champion Islam Makhachev in Abu Dhabi at the end of October if the disciplinary action is applied as it is without the shortening of the suspension. That will not be a possibility. But there's a condition that the disciplinary action will be reduced to 6 months for appearing in public service advertisements to prevent violence. So, might not affect his title hopes. Now, we have the big fight this weekend on UFC. This is kind of a funny story here. It's a rematch. Jerry Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. And both of these guys kind of tune into their warrior spirits. Prochazka claiming to be a samurai. Other people giving him shit for that. And Pereira coming out with a headdress and the traditional boar paint and, native stuff. Native warrior, ancestral, tapping into his ancestral roots. But also, he's apparently been visiting shamans. And Pereira and Prochazka actually got into it a little bit, arguing at the press conference, where Prochazka is actually called for Pereira not to use rituals or spiritual things ahead of their fight. This is one of the weirdest stories I've heard, especially coming from a guy who trains all the time with a fucking sword and talks about being a samurai. Like, yeah. And then to go the extra mile and ask for his opponent to not use spiritual things or rituals. It's like, yeah, yeah. So the exact quote was, I think he believes in a lot of things, the help of spiritual things. That's something that I think he can't fight without. I want to keep that in a clear line. This wasn't actually at a press conference. It was an interview on the MMA Hour. So let me get that clear first. So he said, I want to keep that in a clear line. Just sport performance, pure performance, man versus man. I think he doesn't know how to fight without spiritual guidance because he uses these things every time. Everybody knows he's working with some shamans from his hometown. He believes in some spiritual help from them. I believe too, but I believe in the best human performance right here, right now, without magic. As if it's magic that has propelled Pereira to his wins. I don't think it has anything to do with magic. I mean, he's in touch with his ancestors. That's one thing, but it doesn't mean that they're magically helping him win. Just don't buy that. Uh, anyway. Oh, he did say it during media day too. He said everybody knows that, and he's doing these rituals before the fight. Everybody can feel what's around him and what's going on. And I think Alex can't fight without that. Right now, this is my challenge to him. We can fight in a clear way to be without other things. Let the higher power be there in the cage to see who's the best in the world in pure performance. Whatever that means. And Prochazka has been on a weird trajectory with the title. He won it in 2022, but had to vacate it almost immediately because of an injury to his shoulder, I think. And then Jamal Hill took the title, and also gave it up due to an injury. So it almost seemed at that point like the title was cursed. You know, you get the title. It's like the ESPN NFL cover, or no, the Madden NFL cover. Jinx. But anyway, Pereira finally won it in 2022, or no, Pereira won it in November by second round TKO in a fight that Prochaska was actually winning pretty handily, and out wrestling him a little bit, and then like another one of the analysts I've been listening to predict these fights this weekend talked about how Prochaska has this thing with the second round where he just kind of goes nuts. And I mean, his fighting style in general is, to me, all wrong. Like, Prochaska does some dynamic things like spinning back elbows, a little bit like John Jones was good at. And he does have some decent striking, but he eats punches because he has the most horrible defense. Hands at his waist 99% of the time. And I just don't see like how he does well. It's just, I guess, the weirdness of the rest of his style can work against some people, but Pereira obviously figured it out. It doesn't hurt him that he has Glover Teixeira as his coach, because obviously Prochaska went into an epic fight with him and ended up winning late to get the belt. So obviously Glover kind of has all the secrets from going the longest distance with him. So I don't see Prochaska figuring everything out and doing so much better this time, but a lot of the experts out there are saying otherwise. So maybe
Yeah, pretty.
maybe
And I
that's
do think he got high fight IQ. So this is going to be close. But I still say the champ's the champ, and until he's got to be the favorite.
yeah, and pretty much nobody is going with Prochaska by decision or Pereira by decision. It's gonna be a 5 rounder, so it's very hard to see. Okay, so MMA Play 365 there has all the percentages on this card, and for that fight, they have Pereira at 48.51% to win, and Prochaska at 51.49%. And then, like I said, this algorithm or whatever they use to program this predictive analysis seems to heavily favor the round one stoppages. So they actually have um, Prochaska to win by knockout at 41.05%, whereas they got Pereira at 37.89%. So very close,
Wow,
indicating that
that's interesting.
it could go either way. But the round one or two knockout for Pereira is both of them, round one and round two, is a 14.9% for Pereira, whereas Prochaska is predicted to win in round one basically because he's got a 30.19% rate at a round one knockout finish. I find that pretty interesting because, the last fight went 2 rounds and then Pereira was the one to get the knockout. And also, you know, uh, Jamal Hill and Prochaska haven't fought, but Pereira knocked him out pretty quickly in their fight. And I don't know if that was really expected, but Pereira is just improving leaps and bounds. I mean, Glover Teixeira is a world-class grappler. I'm sure he's working primarily on takedown defense. And one analyst pointed out that actually Prochaska pretty much never gets takedowns. And he probably only took Pereira down in the last fight because he had to. He thought that was his only way to win. Um, but it makes sense that they would come out really trying to finish the fight in the first round, both of them. Um, I think it's going to go longer. I think maybe third round we see a finish. And the predictive analysis goes down to like 5 4-6% max on the second and third rounds of fights and beyond. So I just don't get how it could always be first round weighted. It's like they literally have a suggested parlay this week of, let's just look at the numbers here. Round one knockout for all these fighters. Okay. Oliveira, Prochaska, Gene Silva, Myro Bueno Silva, Martin Boudet, and Delidze. Odds of plus 24,000, no, 240,932. I don't think I've ever seen 6 first round knockouts on a UFC card the entire time I've been watching UFC since like 2006. It might have happened, but I just don't remember. But that is just ridiculous. So I don't know. They've got to do something differently there, because I mean I've never seen analysts predict that who have been doing it for years either. And then to suggest a parlay like that, we'll see. We'll give it a shot for $5. But I mean that's probably going to be like $50,000 if I win that one. Ridiculous. That's like putting in a Powerball ticket. Hoping to win. Anyway, so my prediction, I think, for this one is actually going to be Pereira by knockout, second or third round. That's what I'm going with. I like him. He's from New England. Prochaska, he's had the injury. He's had some inactivity. He's been up and down, and I hate that defense. I absolutely hate it. And I think Alex Pereira, now that he knows his style, is going to make adjustments, and he's going to capitalize on that shitty defense.
Now let's see if Fury can get the fight to the ground. That would be what I'd recommend.
Well, I think even if he does, Pereira is either going to be quicker to scramble back up, or he's going to be able to use the guard to his advantage. I think Teixeira has probably worked a lot on that with him in this training camp. Now that's the main event. This weekend we have an up-and-comer against a longtime UFC vet in the co-main event. And really, the analysts, the experts are few and far between supporting Brian Ortega. Diego Lopez is the favorite going into this one. It's a featherweight fight, but Diego Lopez packs a punch, and he has been finishing people really quick. So we go to the MMA analysis. We've got 58.51% for Lopez to win. And Ortega, if he wins, they're looking at round one submission. Like I said, round one. They love round one for finishes. But
I like Ortega here, slightly.
Yeah, a couple people have gone out on a limb saying he could do it. He had that great performance against Volkanovski, just couldn't complete his submissions. So no surprise, the predictive analysis thinks he's going to win by submission or decision. Submission, they have at 16.97%. Decision, 15.08%. So, and then round one submission, the most likely outcome for him. But Lopez, I mean, he has been not only winning, but it seems like all the embedded shows, he's training with everybody. Everybody who's anybody, he's there. You know, he's either in their corner at a fight or in the gym training with them. So he's learning a lot, and I love the tattoo, dream, believe, and make it happen, that he's got on his chest. Great saying, and he lives it. And he's got odds of 22.16% and 20.25%. First one knockout, second one submission. So I like him by knockout or submission. Oh, that's round one knockout. Round one knockout, 22.16%. Round one sub, 20.25%. So I'll just go across the board, knockout or submission for Lopez. I could see Ortega winning. I think he probably feels like the gun is to his head on this one. He's got to win to put himself back in the title contention and the legacy picture for whenever he retires. He feels like he needs this win. If he's ever going to main event or fight again, he probably has to get it. So I give him the desperation possibility. I think Diego Lopez is on such a streak. I don't know, but I'll give it to you, Tom. I could be wrong. Remember the last show I said, I pretty much guarantee this fight to go one way or the other. I apologize in advance. Well, it didn't go that way or the other, so I've definitely been wrong before. And then we have another one that's pretty much young guy versus old veteran. Anthony Smith looking for win number 39. Nobody gave him a shot last time, and he subbed his guys, so I got to give extra weight to him this time. He's 38 and 19. 19 wins is a lot, but 38 is a lot too for wins. So he's fighting a guy who's a lot less experienced than Roman Dolidze, 12 and 3, but he's definitely capable of a knockout. Dolidze has a 46.96 win percentage based on the analysis from my new site. And Smith, they're actually heavily favoring at 53%. To get the knockout, he's 25.5%. The submission, 20.44%. I would think that would be opposite. Because I don't remember the last time Smith knocked anybody out. It seems like he gets submissions more than anything. But Dolidze is heavily favored to get the knockout if he wins. So that would be a good one to do the alternate decision bet or outcome bet. So I would say submission for Smith or knockout for Dolidze. He's only got 11.13 submission potential, Dolidze. So yeah, that's kind of a pick'em fight. To me, it's 50-50. But they're favoring Smith, I bet, based on experience. Probably going to have most of my bets on Smith, but I will do that alternate decision 1-2. And then we got Macy Chiasson versus Mayra Bueno Silva. Good female fight for the main card. Bueno Silva is the underdog, but Chiasson really hasn't impressed me. A lot of people say she might have trouble with her gas tank in this one. And Bueno Silva is really good with her submissions. So she's got a good chance of taking this one home, I think. Silva's got a 52.9% on the MMA site, and Chiasson 47.10. And for a submission win, Silva has a 30.46% probability, whereas Chiasson has her best probability by decision, 23.83%. It's another alternate decision. That, I think, Silva by sub or Chiasson by decision, probably a safe one. And then Ian Gary versus Michael Page. This is a Styles make fights setup here. Ian Gary, they call him the future. He calls himself the future, I think. But he's at welterweight, and the only thing he has on Michael Page is more UFC experience. He's got a 6-fight win streak in the UFC. Won every fight since he's come in, and 6 fights. Knocked out 3 of those 6, decision the rest. So it's kind of an easy knockout or decision for him if you like him. And knockout or decision for Page as well. He just decisioned, what's his name there? Kevin Holland, who is a UFC veteran. Won all 3 rounds with him. Kevin Holland has a few more fights than Gary, but Gary is just so cocky. And then he had remember we talked about it in UFC Boston. He was just, the crowd loved him there for some reason. It's just kind of odd, But they loved him. And, well, probably because he's Irish, just like O'Malley. They loved O'Malley. But the big Irish contingency there in Boston. But he grew up watching Conor McGregor, loved him, met him in person a couple times and has since trained with him. But now he's in Brazil, training hardcore down there at Chutabox. And if he's cocky, Michael Page is about probably twice as much going into this one. He's won his first UFC fight. He's 22-2. He's only been knocked out once. by Diego Lima. Um, and he's just got such a dynamic style, but he stops and admires his work a little bit too much at times, and I think it gets him in trouble. His cockiness is actually, I think, what lost him his last fight against Logan Storley in Bellator. um, Ended up kind of losing focus on dominating the fight. So this one could be a split decision win for Gary. I think. I don't think he's going to knock him out. And if Page is going to win, I think he's going to be the one to get the knockout. But he's a good pick for an underdog. I think Gary is due for his first loss. It might be good for either of these guys to get humbled, but I think it would be better for Gary. He had that situation too that everybody was on him for. I guess his I don't know if his wife or his girlfriend's ex-husband was living with them. So yeah, there was a lot of criticism over that. Like, why would you do that? It's a big story, and boy, he was being trolled like you wouldn't believe online or on the social media on that one. Anyway, funny what makes the news these days. Then we have Joe Pfeiffer trying to come back from a loss to a really big top contender. Coming in at 12-3 against Marc Andre Barrio, who has a little bit more experience but more losses, 16-7, and everybody is on Pfeiffer to get this win. He has been pretty dominant in his wins, so probably for Pfeiffer, we got to go knockout or submission. He's got a 54.8% probability to win, where Barrio has a 45.2%. And for Barrio, if he wins, it's probably going to be knockout or decision. Knockout, they give him 24.69%, and decision 12.99%. And Piper's got a knockout percentage probability of 32.31 to a submission percentage of 12.64. So if you go one or the other, probably knockout for Piper. I like that one a lot. Then this next one, the computers surprised me quite a bit because a lot of people are picking Feely just based on age. He's a little bit younger than Cub Swanson, but both of them have a shitload of experience, and Feely has just been knocked out in his last fight. So Cub Swanson is looking for win number 30 as well. I believe if he gets it, he'll probably retire. And I like his chances here, and so does the computer. They put him at 53.19%, knockout percentage 22.3, decision percentage 20.35. So that's a great knockout or decision bet for him on the double chance method. And then Feely, for him to get a knockout, it's only 18.78% probability, whereas a decision would be 16.75. So, and he has one of the best nicknames. That's about all he has over Cub. Andre Touchy Feely. But yeah, I don't think he's going to touch Cub Swanson too much here. He's probably going to go down. If the computers are right, anyway. And then Charles Jourdain versus Gene Silva. This one's going to be very competitive. Jourdain does have 7 losses to his 15 wins, but Gene Silva is so dependent on the knockout. I think he's pretty much almost got 100% finish rate by knockout. He is favored by the computer, 52.51%. Knockout percentage, 33.23, which is one of the highest for this card of all the fighters. His submission probability, only 11.63%. Jourdain has a 47.49% chance of winning based on the computer analysis, with a knockout percentage of 20%, submission percentage of 15%. But a lot of people are saying Jourdain is a better fighter, and Silva might gas out. So there's that to consider. And then we got probably the most lopsided fight of the whole card at bantamweight. Peyton Talbot, 8-0 against Giannis Gimori, who's 12-2. And Peyton Talbot has a winning percentage probability of 60.4%. That is the absolute highest the computer spit out. Gamori only 39.6. And his knockout percentage, Talbot, is 37.75. Pretty big. 12.58% sub, so you can go KO or sub, or you just KO. KO in the second round. This is the highest probability. The first time I've seen one in the second round higher than the first. 17.73%. So it's got something about second round, I guess, on his record or his numbers. Gamori, if he's going to win, knockout percentage is 14.85. Decision is 11%. Or no, same thing for decision, 14.85. So, yeah. I would say that's a lock. Either money line or knockout for Talbot. Okay. Then we go to the Karate Hottie against the girl who looks like she should be in the Duck Dynasty family, but she's Canadian. Jillian Robertson. She's even got the same last name. She is coming in at 13-8 at strawweight. Michelle comes in at 18-12. But Watterson seems to have the edge, unless it's a submission. So Robertson, yeah, does have the edge. And they like her by submission. They give her a 36.01 chance of getting this submission. I like an alternate bet on this one, Watterson by decision or Robertson by sub, because Watterson, they give a 46.52% chance of winning and a 20.22% chance of getting a decision. And then probably one of the easiest fights to pick if you've watched Andrei Arlovsky's last few fights. He's looked his age and has not been able to put anything together as far as, a finishing potential. They only give him, actually, I was wrong about the Peyton Talbot fight. So they give Boudet an even higher percentage of winning, 65% for Martin Boudet. It comes in at 13-2. Arlovsky, he's the definition of a journeyman, I guess you could say. 34-23 is his record. And he just has not looked good in his last few fights. If he's going to win, really like to see him get a win and retire and get win number 35. I'd go KO or decision, but definitely just as a wild hedge for some other bets. That's the only way I'd do it. Boudet has a 32.64% chance of getting the knockout, 23% chance of getting the round one knockout. Decision only 18.58%, but actually, probably the best bet here would be the over, whatever it is, whether it be 1.5 or 2.5. If it's 1.5, definitely. But Arlovsky is definitely one of those guys that's hard to put on the canvas, especially against a guy with 15 fights. No matter how old he is, he's pretty durable. And then we got the first two fights. Soria, he's 9-0, fighting Carlos Hernandez, who's 9-3. And Soria is actually going to be accompanied to the cage by a famous WWE wrestler. I read that today. Don't remember the guy's name, but it's a Japanese guy. So, yes, that's the guy. That is the guy.
So I ask wrestling questions of me.
Yeah. You just got to get into the pro wrestling to get Tony to talk about MMA. And the first fight of the night. Oh, I haven't gone into the prediction there. Saruya, 55.95% chance of winning. Knockout would be 23.46. Submission would be 23.46. So equal chance there. TKO or sub seems to be the bet on that one. Hernandez has the best chance of winning by decision. They give him a 31.99% chance of winning by decision. And then we got Ricky Simone versus Vinicius Oliveira. Pretty much every single expert likes Simone in this one. There was one guy who liked Oliveira, thinking that he could get the job done early. They're very close with the computer. 51.91 for Simone, and 48.09 for Oliveira, just on the win. Round 1 TKO seems to be the play if you like Oliveira, because he does gas out. The last guy he beat uh, gassed out before him, so he ended up getting a TKO. But he's got a very questionable gas tank, and Ricky Simone has the same number of wins, got a couple more losses, 20-5 to Vinicius' 20-3, but he has a 23.3% chance to win by decision and 18% chance to win by TKO. And most of the experts like him. They think that Vinicius is going to gas out. So that's another one that you could probably go to over with if it's 1.5. And it is a lighter fight weight. It's bantamweight, so that's the whole card rundown there. We got a big PFL card this week as well. We've got Brendan Loughnane against Justin Gonzalez in the main event. Loughnane comes in with 15 knockouts and 11 decisions. He has 27 wins and 5 losses for his record. And Gonzalez, his opponent, is just 14-4, so a lot less experience. And he also has the distinction of coming in with 3 losses in a row. So I like Loughnane. I find that the PFL is a lot easier to predict. I just found that out pretty recently. I don't know whether it's because they have less fights or they're all coming from the same pool, sort of. There's a lot more Bellator fighters coming in, and they've all usually fought each other before. So it's very easy to analyze. I won $286 the last PFL card that we didn't get to preview. And almost 1,500. I forgot to mention that. Cashed out too early. Always seems to be the case. Either you kick yourself for not cashing out, or you cash out and you kick yourself for cashing out. Happens too often. Yeah, the last time it was a situation like that. It did end up going very late into the game, and it was a very close win for the last team that I had to depend on to win all the money. But I think I cashed out for like a couple hundred, and it was a $601 win if I had stuck with it. But I didn't really feel too bad about that one. The $1,500 instead of 200 and something was different. I felt like shit. I still ended up in the positive, so I really can't complain. Anyway, so Loughnane should be a pretty easy win, TKO or decision. I don't know what the odds are, but probably in the negative on that. Take it anyway. Then we got Logan Storley versus Luca Poklet. Storley 15-3, but he is the last guy to beat Michael Venom Page, so keep that in mind. And Poklet has very little high-level fight experience. He's coming from mostly feeder lead fights. If he wins, I'd heavily favor the submission, but sub or decision is a good bet for him too. But I really like Storley by knockout or decision. I think he's going to take it home. And Magomed Umalatov coming in at 15-0, fighting Brennan Ward, who's 17-8. That's a welterweight fight. Brennan Ward has a lot of experience, but you never want to bet against an undefeated fighter, especially when he's beaten a lot of top-name guys like Umalatov has. Cross Bellator and PFL. Umalatov, I like by knockout or money line. But you could also do knockout or decision. Don't think he's going to get a submission. He's got 11 knockouts and 3 decisions, so 14 of his 15 wins by that method. So those 2 methods. Gabriel Brega. It was the only guy that came in overweight for this fight card at featherweight. Comes in at 13-1, fighting Bubba Jenkins, who's 21-8. Might be a little past his prime, Jenkins. He has got some impressive wins on his record, but I think he loses this fight. I don't think the weight cut aspect is going to hurt Braga, because maybe it's a didn't try too hard situation. Maybe he was Kelvin Gastelum wannabe this time. He's going to apologize later. But I like Braga by knockout or decision. He's got 6 knockouts and 7 decisions, so all 13 of his wins come by those methods. Never had a submission. Jenkins is 21-8. He has 7 knockouts and 10 decisions with 4 submissions, but he also has 4 knockout losses. So if Braga's going to win, it's probably a high likelihood of a knockout. And he lost 3 of his last 5. Jenkins did, so it's a good indicator that he's struggling. Then Lorenz Larkin versus Alan Dominguez. Larkin 25-8. 13 knockouts and 12 decisions. So again, another guy with all of his wins by 2 methods. So that's a pretty easy one. Larkin by knockout or decision. He also has a first round potential with a knockout. Dominguez has 3 submission losses and 3 decision losses. So I'd say it's better to do knockout or decision, and he might probably win by decision. He will probably win by decision. But if you're going to pick Dominguez, he's 11-6. But I'd say knockout or decision if he's going. We got Murad Ramazanov 12-0 against Shamil Musayev 15-0-1. And I don't know if we've ever had this on the show. We do have somebody who's always got to go fight for MMA, for boxing, all the time. But we don't see it a lot if we've seen a draw in MMA. And here we have one, right in the middle of the card at welterweight. But the equalizer here for one guy is going to be the experience and the level of competition. Musayev 15-0-1, Ramazanov 12-0. Musayev has 10 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 3 decisions for his wins, and he does have the 1 draw. I like him by first or second round knockout, and if you're going to go safe, knockout or decision. For Ramazanov, if you're going to pick him to win, I'd either go money line or submission or decision. But he's probably the most well-rounded, undefeated fighter there is because he's got 4 knockouts, 4 submissions, and 4 decisions. So that's why I say money line if you're going to pick him. But Musayev has a few more wins. He's got the 1 draw, so he knows what it's like to come close to losing. I think he's going to take this one. Then we got Timur Kizriev, 15-0, fighting Enrique Barzola, 28-2, 20 wins, 8 losses, 2 draws. That's a featherweight fight. I like Kizriev, decision or KO there. He's undefeated, so you gotta go with that one. Barzola, if he wins, knockout or decision. We got Goiti Yamauchi, 29-6, looking for win number 30 at welterweight. He's fighting Andrei Korshkov, 27-5. This one's a great matchup on paper. And Yamauchi has 21 submissions to go with 29 wins, so you can guess. That's probably the way to go. Pretty easy. His other wins, 5 decision wins and 3 knockouts. So if you're going to go with Koreshkov, knockout or decision for him, he's got 14 knockouts in his 27 wins and 9 decisions. So 23 out of 27 come by that method. Does have the 5 losses. But that's kind of a pick 'em. Either guy could win. The rest of them I don't have predictions for, but I'm going to run them down. 3 more fights. Kai Kamaka III, 13-5-1 at featherweight, fighting Pedro Carvalho, who's 13-9. Don Madge, 11-4-1 at welterweight, fighting Neiman Gracie, who's 12-5. And then Tyler Diamond, 13-3 at featherweight, fighting Brett Johns, who is 20-4. And that should be it for us. So let me see if I have any other news stories I forgot to mention that I had up on the tabs. Guess not. No, it's not it. And we have reached the end of the broadcast. Unless you guys got anything else to add?
Game this weekend. Hopefully, I won't be threatening to smack anybody.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, congratulations on getting in touch with the beer people over there.
I'm leaning on my, you know, I mean, we got it. And just think of a little. He's the one that originally sent me the picture. And then maybe we had miscommunication. You know, check this out. I take it, and I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, that's amazing. And posted it originally on Facebook. And he's trying to so he's the other guy on the phone. Calls me a couple days later. He goes, you know, did you give them permission?
I was joking about that. Yeah,
Can you send me something? So the one see the hand in it.
yeah.
So your hand and you walk searching. You get the response from me saying, holy shit, that's awesome. I think you can safe to say that I'm going to be, you know, posting it. So he's like, did you give them permission to use you? I said, listen, I said, you know, you and I go to so many games and we meet hundreds, if not thousands of people. I don't remember every conversation. Well, sometimes, you know, I have a little of the malted and hops beverage, sometimes washed down with, you know, a Jack Daniels or two. So I don't remember every conversation I had. Is it possible somebody came up to me and said, yeah, we're making this IPA. Will you look at your illustration on the can? You know, I'd be throwing the double biceps up and all that shit. So he was like, he seemed pissed. So I emailed him. The girl calls me on, and hey, I'd like to talk to you. So I from the gym, and we had a great conversation, 30 plus minutes long. And like, what I do is we're based out of Buffalo, and we're based out of Buffalo. We make this IPA, but it's a tailgate type IPA. It's not a very heavy beer. It's one that you can go to a tailgate and you can knock off 3 or 4 of them. She's like, which you can knock some back and just finish it. Really cool girl to talk to. So I'm talking, and she goes, I do as the graphic designer and the marketing person. She's like, I look at the fan base and we're going to market one for somebody, the Cleveland Browns. And it's like, you know, people going to masks. They got some old standard. She's like, well, you need one for the Eagles. I almost thought very quickly. I didn't know about it at the time. But she said, well, we wanted to make one for the Phillies. We were looking at Phillies fans, and she goes, you go to Phillies. They hint whether it was my personal posting, posting pictures of me. If you look at the illustration, there's a cartoon tornado next to me.
Nice. I didn't see that.
So, I told her that she's sending me a whole bunch of shit. It's going to be any beer. She's sending me shirts and some swag and all that. Then she also says, I mean, like this because this is for initial bluffing. Just like I'm playing. So, she's like, we're thinking if we get enough of a fan base in the area, the Philadelphia area, we would like to do some promotional event.
There you go.
We ended up hearing it. Oh, hell yeah. Here's some.
Oh, there you go.
Brandon. Here's my coming. And the team tried to put a lot of depends on where the location is and coming to where I live. When, you know, the time frame they expect me to be there. and exactly what they need me to do, whether I'm doing photos, signings, or whatever. So it would vary. Because my one friend said last night, he goes, you could go out there and say, 200. And then I think, oh, man, I was going to pay you. Right?
Right.
Wait,
Mhm.
which you guys may or may not. There's a sport that I like. There's one sport that I like, and one sport I can do. One I cannot do by I like I respect you.
Mhm.
Okay. I never played it once. I think I lost to an 8-year-old. Your move should count.
Yep.
You don't go out there and bring up the counterpunch. Win there, and you make them throw the first punch. And then you count them. So you go out there, should see. A lot of it depends on, the date, the time, the location, the length of the visit, what you want me to do. What are you offering? 200. Kind of far. It's, an hour plus away. I have to go at least 300 or 400. What's the worst they can say? No? Okay, fine. Fine, I'll do it for 200.
Mhm.
See? Counterpunch.
Nice.
But thank you. I appreciate that. And, I'm excited. And, I found it in my local supermarket. I was buying it the one day. But I turned to the one thing and I was like, significantly, significantly selling within like the last
Mhm.
what goodness. But, man, like, you guys saw like, like, yeah, the baseball fans of. He said, well, we got this one here and it says Phillies on it. And I'm like, there it is. There's fans. Look is on the can. Like, it's seamless. I just get a stand right here.
Didn't recognize you. Yeah.
The cheer that I know, nice enough kid. And I was like, you will never believe what's in the beer aisle. She said, what? I'm like, I can't believe you're on the can. I'm like, you are literally on the can. Oh, it's a kid. No,
Now, how do you think it would have gone if you had talked to the lady and was like, "Well, did you actually get my permission to do that? Do I get a licensing fee or what?"
it, you know what? She gave me the impression that she didn't,
Yeah.
you know, hold on. That's the one goal that my fans really stand.
I was one super fan who got busted for bank robbery.
She, with your, legal expertise, maybe you can weigh in on this.
Can you copyright a gimmick?
Trade particulars, other than on their hands.
Copyright.
Simply, they didn't use an active code.
Right. The
They
cartoon you. So
used
that would be satire, which is protected free speech.
yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. One of my coworkers made it out, and he made it a point. He goes, dude, yeah, we know it's you. It's not actually you.
Right.
If they don't believe you, we know it's you. People that don't know you won't know that. It's not like you got like an actual picture of me on there, or an actual picture of like someone like Sylvester Stallone or Tom Brady or something. And so he made a great point on that. So I mean, what do you guys think on that?
Well, like I said, it would have been better. I made it a joke when I was like, "You should say, oh, you never got permission." and then use it as like a catapult to a better conversation. But your best bet is to just take advantage of the brand ambassador potential and just get some fees to appear and stuff, and maybe that'll branch into full scale commercials for them at some point and handing out coupons at ball games that you go to. Maybe free ball game seats that they pay for. Just ham it up. I'm sure you're capable of that. And like be really nice to them and don't give them shit. If you're gonna give them shit, like make it a joke, like an icebreaker. Like, you know,
I had a with her. It was very positive. I'm excited.
yeah. I look forward to seeing you in the promotional materials in the future Facebook posts. But yeah, more power to you.
From what happened last week. Make them all that. Didn't battle.
Yeah.
And you got to tree. So much when you run over a 18 wheeler and get hit with my left hand. Too short.
Yeah.
Some people are nice. Some people.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Good. hmm
Meeting people, making fun. But some people like they get excited, especially when the game is going good or it's playoff time. And look at like look at like Tyson hitting like Jay. Sort of
yeah.
okay. Mike, you probably people trying to break his own mission. You don't want you bending it, I don't want you bending it. My one girl last year, she was wearing a hat, she goes a chug. Like, and then she dropped the hat and spilled beer on it.
Ugh.
Like, no. She goes, and I said, no, give it back. Then another girl's like, can I wear it? And like, no, sorry, I tried to wear it earlier, and, I didn't want to wear it anyway. We had one. Serious. You're skanky,
Well, hopefully, the next Philadelphia Phillies experience goes better. They won today, didn't they? No?
They were, and and will be sure because both schools had the game. At the end of the game was full chance.
Right. Well, that happens. That happened in a worse way in the Rockies versus Dodgers game a little while ago. I don't know if you saw that, but it was supposed to be the last strike, and the guy checked his swing supposedly, but replay showed that he definitely didn't check the swing. Next thing you know, he hits the game-winning home run, and the fucking
I saw that.
outfielder comes running in, screaming his head off at the umps, and by that time you can't throw him out of the game. The game's over. So they had to just let him scream. And the coach was livid. Oh, yeah, it was a bad one. That cost me some money too because that was like my last pick of the parlay because it's a late night game, and I think they were up by 7 at one point, and it was like scored 7 runs in the last inning. And, it was nuts. One of the most epic comebacks I've ever seen, other than the Mother's Day miracle the Red Sox had a few years ago. It was 9 runs in the ninth inning. But yeah, what a wild finish that one was. The Rockies suck. And that's why. Anyway, good show. We're going to try to get some guests in the next couple weeks. I got a signed picture of Butterbean coming to me, and I put in a word with Scully to try to get an interview with Butterbean again. And then Scully, of course, we keep talking about it, but he's definitely going to give me an interview pretty soon. We'll just have to lock down a Thursday that he's not busy. And then I'm really thinking about giving Dan Severn the 500 he wants to do his interview and just put a couple conditions on it. Like he has to mention our show on his podcast, and then maybe give John Scully an item to raffle off. That would be nice because that's how I got into a conversation with him in the first place. Anyway, we're gonna work on it.
All right. And let me just get this phone on the charger. So I can get
That was a
to
long
my
one.
one.
We almost went into the next day with this one. All right, guys. Thanks for stopping by.
All right, have a good night.
Sure.
All right, guys. Enjoy the fight.